Welcome back to the CNBC Africa special on the State of the Province address. Now, following on the positive momentum of hope that was created by President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address, Gauteng Premier David Makhura stressed the commitment of the Gauteng Provincial Government to renewal and change in his State of the Province address that he delivered yesterday. Here to delve into that State of the Province address and also address some of the key areas of importance that the province will be focusing on is Gauteng Premier David Makhura himself. Premier, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Fifi.
Premier, I suppose let's just begin with what the current state of Gauteng is looking like, the economic hub of South Africa's economy.
Yes, well, let me say that our province continues to be the engine of the economy of Southern Africa in many respects, in many sectors. We are the driver of what happens in the SADC region. We continue to contribute 35% to our national economy, that is South Africa's economy, in terms of GDP. In terms of employment, we're also still the key driver of employment. More than 40% of the people employed in South Africa's economy are located in Gauteng. With regard to our contribution to manufacturing and exports, we're still the key driver in that regard. Just a little bit on the jobs. Between 2014 and 2017, our economy created 317,000 jobs. That was very important. That period was very, very important because we began to break the ceiling of how many jobs per annum has the Gauteng economy created every year since 2010.
In which sectors was this?
The major drivers of employment are the new sectors. You know, the Gauteng economy used to contribute to much more significant number of jobs in manufacturing, but the manufacturing sector has come down quite significantly. We've got the services, especially in the services sector. That's where we have a financial sector, where we are. This is the driver. Sandton City is the driver of the financial services sector of our economy, including in other related sectors linked to servicing, ICT, and I'll come back to this a little bit later in our discussion. So in total, between 2010 and 2017, the Gauteng economy created 700,000 jobs. I was saying in the State of the Province address that 2017 was not a good year for us, largely due to the problems in the national economy, including particularly the downgrade of South Africa. We slowed down in 2017, and it is very important that we are more optimistic as a result of the changes that are taking place in our country. Because when things are going in the wrong direction, the Gauteng economy is hit hard. We are the first economy that's hit hard, whether in the global economy or in our national economy. And when the mood is good, because we are that key hub, when the mood is good and the President Ramaphosa's New Dawn speech and the subsequent things that are happening, including the cabinet reshuffle last night, which has brought in very, very strong people in some of the key areas, such as public enterprises, and you know that's very, very important because a lot of wrong things happened with regard to the governance of our state-owned enterprises. That's where real state capture happened. And the finances, the new finance minister who will be brought in, Finance Minister Ntlantlane is the former finance minister. We hold the view and articulated this yesterday that there's a new mood in the country and a new positive mood, and this is going to be felt throughout the economy. This is by both investors and the public general. When the investors are more positive, we're likely to see a return to a more bullish investment decisions and growth and employment, and in many instances that's what we're going to need. So I am very confident, and that's why yesterday the focus of my speech really was about what does the new dawn mean for us in Gauteng.
And we'll get to that, and
yes.
I want to get to that now. But you know, you're talking about the creation of some 700,000 in excess jobs since
yes.
2010, and
yes.
it echoes some of the things that President Ramaphosa said at his State of the Nation address, to say that, you know, South Africa did actually manage to create some jobs, even
yes.
though times were tough, but
yes.
we could have done a lot more under
yes.
better circumstances.
Yes.
You highlighted that we are in a better mood now. You
yes.
spoke about the cabinet reshuffle, the swearing in of new ministers, Pravin Gordhan,
yes.
Public Enterprises, Finance Minister Ndanda
yes.
Nene. Yes, let's talk about now. What does this better mood, stronger leadership mean for Gauteng?
And Fifi, you would know that essentially since 2014, when I became Premier, you know, some of these major themes that are in the State of the Nation address of President Ramaphosa have been part of the core program of what we call transformation, modernization, and reindustrialization of Gauteng. And some of those include President Ramaphosa made a strong call to address youth unemployment. Now we have been having a program called SOPA 1 million. With which we are working with private sector companies, major corporations, 40 of them so far, to open opportunities for the youth. And I'm very glad, yesterday I said we have 460,000 young people who have already been the beneficiaries of this program.
So you're almost halfway there.
We're halfway there, but the president also called for a social compact. And we have been working with the private sector in key sectors of the Gauteng economy to agree sector by sector on how many jobs can we create. For example, with the BPO sector, business process outsourcing, we have a target of 30,000 jobs in there. We're doing the same with other sectors, the capital equipment and machinery, mining, automotive, agro-processing. In each of those areas, we're working with the private sector in the ICT sector to look at the fourth industrial revolution opportunities. We're looking at how many jobs can we facilitate as government, because government would not be able to create jobs. We create an environment where businesses will do that. The only setback, though, in the period before now was that we were working with business in these various sectors, but they would always come back to us. Premier, we have a problem. There's this national decision, there's this problem, there's the reshuffle that has happened, and these things are impacting on the mood of investors. And I kept saying to them, even though they may be those, let's continue to work together in Gauteng. So it is for that reason that we are truly so fired up, so excited, so inspired. I think the investments we have been working on with the private sector in these areas, this is the right time to reap the rewards. I can see there's going to be, you know, greater opportunities to create larger numbers of jobs in the various sectors, but also to bring in women, black-owned businesses, to bring youth-owned enterprises in the value chains and in the mainstream of our economy. We are the large economy. We can't have an economy that continues to be driven only by a certain section of the population, a minority. So in this regard, Fifi, I look forward to us reaping the reward, riding the positive wave of President Ramaphosa's leadership to do the things, many of which we have been doing, but we we have not been able to get the momentum to the level we needed because of problems in the national economy and the leadership problems that our country has experienced.
For sure, and hopefully the leadership issue or the leadership challenge is out of the way. But the state of the nation address, and I bring it back because your SOPA address also very much mirrored what was said. The emphasis on youth employment and putting giving young people jobs at the focus of government's plan now. Given that there's such a strong message coming from national level, do you think that TEPO 1 million, I mean, it will definitely accelerate the momentum that you've tried to achieve with TEPO 1 million as a result?
Well, the president made a call to businesses, a very strong call, and I think he is amongst the best people who understands how business works, because he was a businessman. He understands how investors make decisions. So he made a call, very simple call. He said to them they should place young people in internships, 1 million young people in internships. And I say that, you know, with the work we have been doing, this is going to give momentum. So the 40 companies that are working with us to train young people, give them opportunities in the economy. I see this growing to probably 100 companies, and not just dealing with internships, but also incubating youth-owned enterprises, employing more young people in positions where you don't need lots of experience, because unless young people are given opportunities, they will never gain experience. You know it. You know, you can't run before you walk. So young people need to be given opportunities in businesses, especially in positions where you don't need a lot of experience, even in government. And
that's what a lot of young people are saying. Some young people are very upset that they were not included in the new cabinet that was announced, but that's a conversation for another day. You know, I want to talk about the issue of, you know, strengthening the partnerships there with the private sector, and you did touch on this, and you kept on saying that you anticipate that it will be a lot easier going forward, given that there's a lot of optimism about where South Africa is headed. Outside of creating jobs for the youth, what about the optimism in the way of infrastructure? Because that's also a big thing that needs to happen in Gauteng that's been holding the economy from growing further.
Yes, I agree with you, Fifi, that I think the social compact that the president called for needs to happen in a number of areas. It needs to happen on employment creation. It needs to happen on infrastructure development. It needs to happen in areas as well about ethical leadership and fighting corruption. So the infrastructure story for Gauteng is very simple. The citizens of our province, in a citizen satisfaction survey, say infrastructure, the state and quality of infrastructure in Gauteng is the best area of work of government where they rate us the highest. So the level of satisfaction with infrastructure among citizens, it's very high. So this spurs us to continue to invest in state-of-the-art infrastructure. The Gauteng government, as you would know, had spent 30 billion rands between 2013 and 2016. And in the next 3 years, it's now 2 years left of that, we will be spending another 40 billion rands. So infrastructure is important in the areas such as rollout of broadband. We are a modern economy. We are an increasingly modernizing economy. We are integrated. We are in Africa. We are also a catalyst. We are in the forefront of the fourth industrial revolution. We need broadband infrastructure that is will help us unlock growth of new sectors of the economy. Public transport investments, very, very important, including in good roads and public transport system. I also spoke about the issue of the e-tolls yesterday. We also need the public transport, infrastructure such as for energy and water, because Cape Town has a big problem of a water crisis now. We have just completed an interaction with the Gauteng City Region Observatory that says that if we don't take action now, we will face a water crisis. So that's why I'm going to be meeting with the mayors in March to sit down and plan how do we invest in maintenance of the water problem in our province, that the quality of infrastructure is very bad. But we also a province that depend on the Lesotho Highland water system that comes into the Vaal River system. So we've got to deal with these challenges and not wait until there's a problem and blame somebody else, like our counterparts in Cape Town are doing. They are blaming the national minister. The question is, what did they do? I don't want me and the mayors sitting here a few years later to be blaming somebody else in national government. We've got to act now.
For sure, prevention is better than cure.
Our economy needs lots of energy, but we must invest in renewable energy so that we have cleaner energy. So infrastructure is something that we need to keep our economy growing.
You know, this message of actually doing something about the lack of or not sufficient infrastructure spent in the economy, it's a great thing. I mean, we were talking to a boss in the construction sector. A lot of these big companies have gone outside of South Africa to look for growth, essentially exporting jobs. A lot of small businesses are unable to grow because there's not enough budget that's allocated this way. So it's a very encouraging message that you're sending there, Premier, in the way of infrastructure spend. Right, so as we are spending more on infrastructure, as we are getting the economy going, the township economy, what's in store for the township economy?
Well, you know that is my passion, Fifi. If there's something that really keeps me going, dreaming, that turns me excited, I lighten up when you talk about the township economy, is because that's where the overwhelming majority of our people are. Many of them who can't find employment in the big firms today are in the townships. And that's where we have to turn around these spaces into vibrant local economies. So we have done a lot over the past 3 years, but it's still not enough. I know that we now have spent over 17 billion rands of our procurement spent is in the township economy. We're grown from just 600 businesses benefiting from our procurement budget, and now we have 4,100. Even with that, I say, there's still many more township businesses that are doing amazing. They have amazing goods and services. They all want opportunities, access to the market. Many of them also say they need financing. That's why I talk of the provincial state bank. They can only grow if, firstly, we assist them to have access to markets, including us buying from them, significantly spending substantial amounts of money, urging them and nudging them and pushing them to really be businesses that are sustainable, that are producing quality goods and services. And lastly, help change the financing environment because this is a fundamental problem. Businesses in the townships cannot be funded by the DFIs, the development finance institutions. They cannot be funded by the banks, the current mainstream banks, especially the top four. So we need to fill that gap through a number of innovative measures. And I'm quite excited that there are private sector people who say, we want to partner with you on this idea of the provincial state bank, because its focus should be on two issues, Fifi. One, it should be on financing the growth of SMMEs and township enterprises. Secondly, financing infrastructure. So back to that story of infrastructure. So this provincial state bank is something that we are looking forward to getting going over the next year. Premier,
in the meantime, some small businesses will just say, just pay us on time. Just pay us on time and we'll be able to be the engines that can, you know, get this economy going. And what are you going to do to ensure that
I certainly agree.
On time?
I think we're whipping our departments a lot with regard to payment of service providers on time. I know that at the moment the only department that is falling behind is the Department of Health because it has got significant financial challenges which are being attended to by the team that I have appointed together with the National Minister of Health to support the MEC, Dr. Gauteng Makhura, around that. Otherwise, across the province, we're saying that we need to push the payment of service providers on time because, and that's where the businesses are able to make progress. But with those who are affected by the current health situation, I say to them, please bear with us. We are sorting out the issue. In no time, we will be on the other side of the river. They shouldn't give up. They shouldn't give up.
South Africans, we've got a fighting spirit. We tend to not give up very easily. Premier, staying on the situation of health, I mean, I'm quoting you. Yes. You said that you are very sad, essentially, that the Life Esidimeni tragedy happened under your watch.
Yes.
We can't change the past, but we can certainly change, you know, the future and avoid making the same mistakes in the future. What's your plan there?
Well, I just want to repeat, Fifi, that I think if there is something that during my term as the Premier of Gauteng has greatly wounded or scarred my own heart, that's the Life Esidimeni tragedy. It has been something of great pain to the affected families, but it has also caused a lot of pain to those of us who have now fully come to understand what happened. The callousness with which the mental health patients who died were treated, the way in which they were treated, and the circumstances under which they died is something that should never happen in a democracy. And it is for that reason that I have made a commitment. Firstly, I've taken full responsibility and accountability as the head of government in Gauteng and said anything that happens in this province, even if it's in an institution, in a school, in a government office, anything that happens that results in things like loss of life, I'm the head of government. In the end, I must take full responsibility. I can't pass the buck. Whether I was close there or not, it really doesn't matter. I'm the head of government, and I must make sure that I face the affected families and fix the problem and ensure that anyone who is supposed to be held accountable, including those who are criminally liable, face the full consequences of the law.
Premier, allow me to slip one more question in there. So you're talking about going hard on accountability going forward, ethical leadership you already raised, and the sweeping of corruption that we are seeing at a national level. With everything that's happening at the national level, what does it mean for the Gauteng province in terms of this clean sweep of corruption and the trimming, unfortunately, of some jobs there?
Well, look, I am very happy. As the Premier of Gauteng, I'm very happy that there are things that are happening since the election of President Ramaphosa. There's action you can see that corruption will be dealt with without fear, favor, or prejudice, and that the law enforcement agencies shall do their work. Now, you would know, in this province since 2014, as the Premier of the province, I've taken a hard line, working with all the MECs to say, in our province, we want clean governance. And you know, the AG, that's the Auditor General, has given us 2/3 of our departments and entities in Gauteng have received clean audits, which is tremendous progress. From 54% in 2014, we now have 2/3, so which shows we are making progress. But we're also taking decisive steps in areas where there have not been consequences for wrongdoing, particularly irregular expenditure and wasteful expenditure. And I want you to watch the space. In this coming year, because I've been very frustrated by the fact that sometimes they are in forensic investigations, or officials who have done wrong things have protracted disciplinary processes. Some even resign, go and start new jobs elsewhere. They recycle this wrong behavior. What we want to see is that where they are wrong, there's wrongdoing and there's corruption, I want to see criminal prosecutions. And to that effect, I've met with the Special Investigation Unit to say that, you know what, anything that they've been investigating in Gauteng, I would like to see action. Those investigations must be completed. Other cases that have not been to them, I want those to be handed over to them, because everybody needs to understand that without ethical leadership, without integrity, we can't restore respect of our country. For that reason, the public would be dismayed, but investors will also have problems with coming back into our economy. So I look forward to a year in which there's going to be a lot of action, and I see even with the lineup of the new ministers, we will expect a lot of action on the issues that have to do with state capture, and we'll also expect a lot of action on holding ministers accountable. I want to be in the same situation in Gauteng. We as a province have been in the forefront of fighting against corruption. We've also been in the forefront of calling for, you know, the type of leadership that will restore respect of our country. So we can't do that, all that, and fall behind. So again, the new dawn.
Not now. You have a year to ensure that you actually do fulfill the promises that you're making to the people, because we are going to a vote. And I am sure Gauteng doesn't want a repeat of the municipal elections. But Premier, we'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. That, of course, was Premier David Makhura. He's the Premier of the Gauteng province, telling us there to watch this space, saying that he would be holding himself to the highest level of accountability to ensure that processes get done, that ethical leadership gets upholded, and speaking very positively about the new dawn that is upon us. The message delivered by the President Ramaphosa, saying that this certainly would translate into a very positive outcome for everyone here. But thank you very much for watching this CNBC Africa special from us here in Johannesburg. It is bye for now.